Does that include fire?
Folks, we've got to keep comments and questions until the end of the presentation.
I will make a comment that when you look at total township rate, make sure you look at, does that include fire protection? There are lots of townships that do not include fire protections. For instance, White River Township does not include fire protection. So if you look at just their rate, it will not be apples to apples because their rate is coming from the fire district.
What's the percent of them that include fire protection?
Nikki, please just proceed.
So, after the rate has increased, you will pay $197, $182 respectively, as we discussed. White River Township, that same house, if you would move it into White River Township Fire Department's district, pays $204. That same house in Bargersville pays $247. That same house in Brown pays $161. That same house in Decatur pays $308. In Clay Township pays $66. And in Green Township pays $97. $97. This is a comparison of income tax in Madison Township. Income tax is distributed for certified shares, public safety income tax, economic development, property tax relief. Madison Township only gets certified shares. They do not get distributed any public safety income tax or economic development. So over the past several years, Madison receives 2.9 to 2.6% of all of those three categories, or all of that certified shares distributed in the county. If you take in certified shares, public safety income tax, economic development, Madison only gets for 2020 a little over 1.5% of income tax. That will go up to about 3% with the fire territory. By statute, we are required to display what would the impact on other units surrounding you. So this is the analysis. In the first year, we're assuming no impact because income taxes are distributed based on prior year levy. 2021's levy will be based on 2020, which does not include the fire territory. 2022 would include the fire territory, so there would be an increase to the fire territory participants. And the pie, I use the analogy, it's a big pie, everybody has to share. Madison and Harrison get a little bit bigger of the pie, everybody else gets a little bit smaller of the pie.
Are those in parentheses, are those negative values?
Correct. Another thing we are required to disclose is circuit breaker impact on the other units in the taxing district. So circuit breaker, as I said, is the amount of property taxes that are levied over that 1%, 2%, 3%. In 2018, all those combined only had a circuit breaker loss of $7,800. That would go up to a little over $9,300 in the first year of the territory. The township would see the main part of that circuit breaker loss because they will be the bigger part of the pie. Also required to disclose the impact on the other units of the excise tax, as I discussed before. Again, it's one big pie. Madison has a sliver now. They'd have a little bit bigger sliver after it's over. Madison is the winner. The school loses a little bit. The county loses a little bit. The library loses a little bit.
Everybody on that list loses, don't they, except for the two
Yes,
entities?
but if anybody else raises taxes, we would lose. The township would lose.
Man, you're gonna hook your foot in that loop in a minute and fall. Somebody needs to yank that cord back out of the way. 2 or 3 times you got your foot right on that. All you need to do is fall on the concrete. Okay?
Yep, thank you, sir.
The two fire departments get more money, but everybody else gets negative. Doesn't that mean everybody else gets nothing?
Not that they get nothing, they just get less.
They get that
Everybody
much
still
less.
gets something. And they, my part is
So from the fire department operational standpoint, the first thing that we were required to disclose is the capital improvements needs for the proposed territory. The first thing that we identified is the Harrison Township Fire Station is owned by the volunteer corporation over there. The fire district itself does not own any assets. So the territory would need to negotiate use of that fire station with the volunteers who own it. We did an evaluation of the apparatus that is owned by the volunteer fire department, and what we determined was most of that apparatus is very aged and in differing stages of use and functionality. In our opinion, the Harrison Township fire apparatus will all need to be evaluated by emergency vehicle technicians that are certified fire truck mechanics, essentially. And then those that have pumps and ladders, air packs, all that will need to be tested. Our initial evaluation showed that a new pumper will be needed in that area. And what we did not know at that time is they actually have a truck being built currently. And we'll cover that here in one of the later slides. So part of the capital needs improvement assessment was that the new fire truck would need to be purchased in the near future, and funding for that was going to come from the equipment replacement fund, which Nikki discussed earlier. So we needed to make sure that fund would allow for the purchase and payments needed. Currently, all Madison Township apparatus meets the NFPA standards as far as testing and service, and may be used as needed. We do have a reserve engine that is also certified, that if needed, we could deploy into the current Harrison Township district. The next thing we looked at and evaluated was their equipment. Harrison Township's current fire gear expired in September of 2019, so they do not have any currently certified gear within the national standard. The current SCBA that they have is in date. It's within 10 years old of life, but it has not been tested like I mentioned a minute ago. It's not been flow tested and hydrostatic tested on the bottles.
What SCBA?
The air packs that carry the air for us. All of the hose that Harrison Township has on their fire trucks age is about 35 years old. It was actually donated to them in 2005, I believe, when Madison Township got a grant for new hose. They took possession through donation, and when Madison received that same hose, it came from Wayne Township in Indianapolis in the early 90s when Wayne Township switched to 5-inch hose. Madison acquired all of their 4-inch hose, and it then transitioned over to Harrison. So we've determined that that's about 35 years old.
What's the average life on those?
10 years. Between 10 and 15 years.
We didn't catch your name.
Mike Lang, I'm the fire chief here in Madison Township.
Okay, thanks.
The basic tools and equipment, again, will all need to be tested, records started, most likely replaced to be compliant with some of the most basic national recommendations and safety standards. And what we're talking about there is things like the ladders that the trucks carry will need to be checked and evaluated, certified. The auto extrication tools will need to be serviced and tested to make sure that they're all in working order. Both Madison Township and the current Harrison Township Volunteer Fire Department are using radios that were purchased in 2008 through a grant that the county did. Most other units in the county have started the replacement cycle. I know in the last couple of years the Sheriff's Department, all the police departments, and even some of the fire departments have already replaced them. But we're still using those old radios, the 2008 radios. Motorola, who is the manufacturer, they no longer support those radios on the software side or on the repair and maintenance side. So what we've had to do is go to a second vendor that's not affiliated with Motorola. It's just a radio shop that we've located that basically what they do is they take old radios, swap parts to try to keep old radios working. So they're combining two old radios to make one. The projected funding source would again be that equipment replacement fund that Nikki discussed. that's very similar to what Madison Township has right now. It's called a cumulative fund. I have some handouts up here that you guys, somebody here, just kind of pass those around. And what the handout is coming around, it talks about NFPA 1710. That's the national standard for deployment and operations on a primarily career fire department, which is what we're proposing. So in this handout, you'll see some of the things that I'm going to reference in the next couple of minutes.
Thank you.
So in NFPA, the national standard, it talks about standard address structure fire is in 3 hazard levels. The 3 is low, medium, and high. Most of Madison Township and Harrison Township is going to fall into that low. A very little bit is going to fall into the medium category. So most of the presentation deals with the low numbers. So the most basic level of recommendations. NFPA defines a company as it's a group of members under the direct supervision that's trained and equipped to perform an assigned task. They're organized and identified as an engine, ladder, rescue squad, or multifunctional company, or it's a group of members who arrive at the scene and operate with one apparatus. So the current proposed service levels and staffing model, the top there is the incidents in 2016, 17, 18, and 19. You can see how many runs each of the departments did. I actually have the times flip-flop, so the number at the bottom there says turnout. That's how long it takes from the time that we receive the dispatch till our trucks are moving. And then in the middle there it shows from the time of dispatch until the first unit has arrived on the scene. NFPA recommends a 60-second turnout time for EMS and an 80-second turnout time for fire run. And you can see that you know, we're not there, essentially. I mean, we're close in a couple of years, and others we're not there. Part of the reason for that I attribute to is our countywide dispatch system, the way that it operates, and the way that it dumps the information into our reporting system. The clock really starts ticking is when they answer the phone, not necessarily when they dispatch. So if they take a minute to answer the call, get it put into the computer, that's a minute that is reflected here that isn't really a true turnout time. So the time is ticking as soon as the call is answered. The number for the first arriving unit, I believe those to be good numbers. And as you can see, the recommendation is to have the first unit on the scene within 4 minutes. And again, in Madison, we're not meeting that most of the time, and Harrison is not either. The last item that NFPA talks about is the full alarm. They want a full alarm on scene. They recommend a full alarm to be on scene within 8 minutes. And again, based on the numbers of people that they want on the scene, we're not meeting that as well. And in the initial alarm deployment, the number of firefighters for a low hazard, so that's basically a single family residence, is 15 firefighters. So NFPA recommends that 15 firefighters be on the scene of a house fire within 8 minutes. And in this area of the county, which is probably one of the better staffed, it's very, very seldom that we have 15 firefighters on the scene within 8 minutes. A medium hazard, which would be a business or strip mall type of structure, the recommendation is 28 firefighters on scene within that same 8 minutes. And again, if you get every career firefighter in northern Morgan County, you're not getting 28 people there in 8 minutes. The current staffing levels, Madison Township staff Station 31, which is our station south of 144 on Kitchen Road. We have 3 firefighter EMTs there each day, covering 1 apparatus, whether that's the engine or the rescue that's housed there. We also have a brush truck down there. This station here is staffed with 4 firefighter EMTs a day. One of those is certified and licensed at the paramedic level, and they cover 2 apparatus. They cover the medic truck and the engine secondary. So what that means is, if we get a fire run, all of them get on the fire truck and go. If we get a medic run, an EMS run, 2 take the ambulance, 2 take the fire truck. If the ambulance transports to the hospital, then 2 firefighters return to the station for coverage. In Harrison Township, Harrison's currently covered by all volunteers which respond from home at the time of the call. Paid daytime staffing has been proposed on numerous occasions, but cut from each budget proposal by the county council. This one's a little bit difficult to read, and we apologize with the last meeting and just couldn't get it really any better for the screen. But this is the proposed staffing when the territory gets to full funding. What we are proposing is the initial firefighters to be at the low firefighter again is 15 and medium at 28. I'm sorry, NFPA recommends 15 or 28. They also recommend a minimum of 2 members trained at the EMT paramedic level for ALS runs, which is your advanced life support, and 2 members trained at the BLS level, which currently we are not meeting because we only have 1 paramedic on a day. The proposed staffing when we get to full funding would put 4 firefighters here assigned to this station and a medic truck with 2, so a total of 6. Our station 31 would have 4 firefighters assigned to it, firefighter EMTs, and the supervisor being a battalion chief or equivalent. And then the current Harrison Township station would have 4 firefighters assigned and a medic truck assigned there as well, so a total of 6. So a total of daily staffing of 17 on-duty firefighters would be the proposed levels. And again, the current in Harrison Township is that they're all volunteer, home response, so that current staffing, they don't have any. This is a new slide for any of you that were here at the last meeting, the first meeting. One of the things that we had recently done at that time was talking with the Harrison Township volunteer fire chief officers, and we've added some of the assets that they bring to the table. Like I mentioned earlier, the Harrison Township Fire District, being the government unit, does not own any assets. They don't own the fire station, they don't own any of the fire trucks or anything really at all. They essentially contract with the volunteers to provide that service. So the Harrison Township Volunteer Fire Department has a new building with living quarters that's been built. Most of that money was funded through a grant, as I understand it, but they do have they have spent some of their money to finish the building, and it's still in process of being finished. As I mentioned earlier, they have a new fire truck being built currently. That truck would have water in the tank, and it's designed to be a dual purpose to do either rescue or hazmat type of work as well. But it would be certified as a fire engine with a pump in the tank and hose. Harrison Township has applied for some grants, one being for new fire gear. The fact that they have over 20 sets, I think the number's 25 or 28, that are completely out of date. They are 100% non-compliant with the 10-year rule recommendation of the NFPA. So that alone is going to put them in a very high probable award category. So they have applied for that grant this year. Some other equipment that they have that Madison does not. They do have drones. If you watch the news or you watch any social media, drones are becoming a big part of the fire departments and how we do our jobs now. Harrison was one of the first departments that got involved in the countywide water team to do work around the river, White River. So they have an airboat, they have a Zodiac boat, and they are equipped at the Swiftwater equipment and trained at the Swiftwater technician level. So they are a part of that countywide Swiftwater team. Harrison Fire District is in the mixed use area of the county's long-term plans, which allows for light industrial and commercial development with I-69 coming through there. And when it gets finished and development occurs, Harrison Township Fire District assessed value could outpace Madison Township's. The county has also recently started construction on a new sewer system to serve the Harrison Township and that area of the fire district in the county. Some of the estimates, they assume the assessed values for the first 3 years of this territory will remain the same as certified in 2019, which, again, that's an assumption. That's probably not going to happen based on the past several years. Our assessed value in Madison has increased each year, which in turn reflects in a reduced tax rate for the taxpayers. The estimate for the fire territory rate only, and assumes no other units of taxing districts are going to increase their property tax during the first years of the territory, or the first 3 years of the territory. The estimates assume that the total local income tax distribution will be as in 2020 for the first 3 years, and the estimate assumes all property tax rates will stay the same as 2020. So the next step of this is to vote on the territory is scheduled for and advertised for March 27th. It'll be right back in this building at this at 5:30 p.m. I'm sorry? These two boards will vote of whether to create a fire territory or not.
So the people have nothing to say.
That's what tonight's for. Tonight's a public hearing for the public to make a comment, to voice your opinion or your comments to your elected officials and appointed officials. So
where are they all at?
they're sitting at the front table. Those are the ones that are elected and appointed to represent you.
Is there 6 or 5?
Madison has 3,
Where are they at? Okay.
and Harrison has a board of 5, which 3 of them are here.
And our only option then is if they don't vote the way the majority of the meeting wants them to, our only option is a lawsuit.
No, our only
No.
option is to vote them out.
Right. Your options are on election day.
Well, we can handle that, but I mean, I'm talking about the other, seems to me.
I'm not a lawyer. I'm a fire chief. I'm here to present the. I'm here to present the proposal. So,
Can we discuss the conflict of interest on the board for Madison?
I'm the fire chief. You can discuss that if you sign in and make a comment. You can make that as your public comment. As I stated, I put the proposal together based on national standards and national recommendations to increase the quality and level of service provided to Madison Township specifically. And in doing so, the best way that we feel to do it is to join forces with Harrison Township and provide a service over the broader area of coverage. One of the questions and comments that I got is that Madison Township bears the brunt of the cost of this. And my response to that is the proposal for the territory is much like the school district, that it covers, a bigger area, and everyone will pay the same tax rates based on, just like you do the schools. So that same analogy, Madison Township residents are also paying a bigger portion of the school's bills. So, that's what this proposal is meant to do. The other aspects that we take into consideration on the fire department side is over the last 5 years, we've had over 200% turnover in our full-time firefighters, and we've attributed that to 2 things. We don't offer a competitive salary to those around us, so we're not close to the Decatur Township. We don't pay as much as Mooresville, Brown Township, Martinsville, certainly not White River, Bargersville. So that's the first aspect. Our full-time firefighters' certified salary is $44,910. With that, they also receive a retirement benefit, but they do not receive health insurance. So that's what we have contributed to, the reason we have had over a 200% turnover in our full-time firefighters is they're coming in, getting started, and then they're looking for other opportunities of other departments that is hiring. So that's the reason and the main purpose of this proposal is to bring the level of service that we provide to national standards and be able to be operating in a safe and efficient manner with enough firefighters on the truck and with enough paramedics to provide a service to you, the public, to be able to provide pay and benefits to our employees in a manner that they want to stay here and continue their employment because we offer a good pay and benefit package competitive with those around us. And then the last thing I'll say is Madison Township is currently the only township in Morgan County that operates our ambulances out of our fire budget. Every other township in Morgan County either is on the countywide EMS, and you also pay, those residents also pay a countywide EMS tax. And then for Brown Township, they're not a part of the countywide EMS, but Brown Township was grandfathered back, as I understand it, in the 80s to where they actually have an EMS tax rate. Madison Township does not have and has never had an EMS tax rate. When we started ambulance service in 2003 or 2004, it was done out of the fire budget. And as we have expanded, it has always been done out of the fire budget. So we're the only unit that does that. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the board chair, and she will go from there.
I'm going to open it up to the board for if you have any comments you'd like to add.
I have several questions. First off, things. In the last meeting, I'm sorry? You hear better over there?
Yeah. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Sure.
Who you are,
All right.
introduce yourself.
My name is Larry Ellis. I'm from Madison Township. I sit on the board. The first question is, in the last meeting, it was expressed that we've been talking about this for 4 years. What I'd like to know for the record is who's been talking about this for 4 years, specifically?
Fire administration has been in this discussion with the fire administration and elected officials in the northern part of the county.
No, I'm an elected official in northern Morgan County, and I did not know anything about this until Facebook.
Madison Township has had discussions with Brown Township. We've had discussions with, let's see here, Harrison Township was brought into the mix. We had the Clay Township trustee has been in the meeting. Somebody from Brooklyn has been involved.
Why are we in discussion with anybody? We have nothing to change. We already got the fire
Hey,
department.
what I'm trying to do is establish for the record who's been involved in these discussions right at the moment. Because I think it's important to know who's been discussing these things for us. Yes, that's what I was looking for, and specifically who's been involved, specifically.
Madison Township Fire Administration, which involves myself and my 2 deputy chiefs. Brown Township, which includes their fire chief and assistant chief.
We don't care about Brown Township. We care about here. We can look it up on the Facebook page later.
Was trustee involved?
Yes. Yes, Madison Township's trustee has been involved, Brown Township's trustee has been involved. As I mentioned, the Clay Township trustee has been consulted. I know there's members of the Fire District Board, so there was members of the Monroe Township Fire District, and the Monroe Township Fire Chief was here for discussions. So this is not something new. This is something that has been discussed. This was been discussed as far back as 2007 with Brown Township and Madison Township, and even the town of Mooresville has had conversations. So this is not a new concept. It's something that has been discussed openly and mentioned in many board meetings over the years that I've been involved in Madison Township.
Why? What board meeting? Where?
Gentlemen, as a past member of the board for the last 7 years, we have been talking about this ever since I got on board.
In the meetings?
Yes, in the meetings.
Okay, has the fire department, such as the acting chief there and so forth, been involved in these discussions?
Yes.
In Harrison? Okay. Okay, I have another question. I have several, actually. The presentation tonight, we showed some assets for Harrison Township.
Harrison Township volunteers.
Volunteers,
Yes.
okay, to be specific. But we didn't see those assets on the last time around.
Correct. That's why I said that's a new slide, because when we sat down with them the last time, they did not provide those to us in time for being the presentation, and they were asking that it be added to the presentation of what the volunteers bring to the table. And for those that were not here at the last meeting, part of the discussion and questions the biggest part of the questions revolved around the involvement of the current volunteer fire department in Harrison Township. As I stated then and earlier, the territory would have to negotiate use of their building because the volunteers own that building. They also, in discussing that, the question came up, who would negotiate that? Well, the negotiation will come from the territory, not the fire chief, not the fire department. It would have to be an agreement based on the territory. So that's going to be these two boards and the owners of that building, which is the Harrison Township Volunteers. And in doing so, Harrison Township made available to us a list of the rest of their assets, more so than what we did walking through the building. And that's where it's, they're estimated at about $4 million worth of assets.
Okay, well, I was kind of confused because there's nothing in one meeting, but there's something in the next meeting. We're supposed to have been talking about this for some time.
Those assets
information.
that were listed in the initial presentation was based on a walkthrough of the building. The assets that were added in the slide tonight were sent directly to us to be included.
Okay, so we didn't have any, though we were talking about forming a territory, we weren't talking about assets or anything like that at that time.
For the last 13 years.
Okay.
Harrison,
you had something to say.
For the you may bring it up in a few minutes. You got a few other questions. I'll let you get through.
So to address that point, Harrison Township's a fire district. Fire districts initially were not allowed to be in a territory. So Harrison Township just came to the table within the last year as being eligible to be in the table, to come to the table and talk about a territory. So in doing so, we were not under the thought that Harrison and Madison were going to be able to work together because of things that they wanted that weren't beneficial to Madison. And as was disclosed, Madison Township brings a lot more assessed value to the table. We bring a lot more assets to the table, and a current organizational structure is set up closer to the direction we want to go. When Harrison came to us and first started talking about it, we didn't feel we could get to an agreement. Then we had some discussions with Harrison Township Fire District board members that came to us to start discussions. So the ultimate fire territory is between the township and the district. If the district is involved, they are the ones that are going to control what happens in Harrison Township, not the volunteer corporation, which was who we initially started conversations with. So if the township board and the district board come to an agreement, we have to negotiate with the owners of those assets to use them. Initially, we didn't think we could get there. This discussion started essentially around Christmas time and came together pretty quickly in about 3 meetings.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna vote on something that is unknown.
Okay, what type of authority does the trustee of Madison Township have over, or any at all, over the fire district, over the fire territory? How is he involved?
The trustee of Madison will be the provider unit. So as the provider unit, your board and your trustee will be responsible for doing all the administrative elements with consultation from their board. So it will just be another part of the process for both you as the Township Advisory Board and then the trustee as the elected executive to administer the budget for the territory.
Now might be a perfect time for my question.
He's our lawyer.
Wait. Will there be a fire township board that will be appointed by, consisting of members of our district and their township board?
There will not be another layer or intermediate board,
So-
you will consult, you
So
will
as
still
stakeholders, we are not going to have a say in the budget,
no, you will, there will be participation.
figuratively, but not literally.
Right.
Okay, you answered my question.
Yes. I'm going ahead. All right. There is a federal grant of $1.2 million on the building, the fire station in Harrison Township. Currently, I don't know government law, obviously, or I wouldn't be here. Are there any restrictions on how that building can be used and who can use it?
I'm not the grant administrator.
I've never seen the grant. I mean, ask for something from the federal government, there can be a string attached.
Yeah.
But once the building is constructed, then it would just depend on whatever municipal or county land use permits, and I would presume that it's built for fire structure or fire uses, and that you would have a legitimate use in there. I don't know federal funds, once the building is constructed, that it can only be used for that particular body, so long as you can track and trace. Now, if it's used for that particular group and then all of a sudden it just so happens to be sold for some for-profit reason, my guess is that whoever is administering that grant or the IRS is going to want to take a look at it. But that's all hypothetical. I have no idea what that's coming from.
I understand.
The federal fire grants, which is what that was done under, typically have a performance period. So in order to take the federal money, you have to agree to perform for a certain period of time. On a fire station, I don't know what that time would be.
Okay. Now, I understand that Harrison Township contracts to the volunteer fire department and for the use of the building. Is that correct? Or not the use of the building?
No, we as a district board contract for fire protection to, right now, we contract with the Volunteer Fire and Rescue of Harrison Township. We could contract with Madison Township. We could contract with Bargersville Fire Department. We could contract with Indianapolis Fire Department if we chose to. But currently, our contract is with the Volunteer Fire Rescue of Harrison Township.
Now, is that a written contract? Or
Yes.
is it, okay, and it's for what duration of time?
The current contract is up in June 30th of this year.
June 30th of this year, okay. And we haven't established yet what a lease would run us on that building, obviously.
Yeah, but we got a problem.
There's a good question I would like to see answered, is what are the terms of that lease going to be for that building? What numbers have initially been presented at this point and discussed?
The numbers that have been presented and discussed that we have talked over the last couple months, right now, Harrison Township volunteers have an obligation of about $2,500 a month on the loan. And that goes towards the truck that's being built and whatever else that they have already as obligated. That's between them and their bank. I don't know how long it is. I know that's the number that was given to me. As far as the building, there's still about, what we're estimating to be about $200,000 worth of work to continue to make it occupiable, get the certificate of occupancy, and how they chose to do that has not been determined. But we have told them that before we would sign that agreement, that the building had to be usable and would need to be occupied.
Have there been any terms of a lease bandied about?
No, you guys will negotiate that lease. I don't have the authority or the ability to. That lease will be ultimately done by the elected officials that sit at the table.
But you want to do that after the fact, after we put the...
No, that needs done up front. We need to discuss it now.
We kind of hit on this the last meeting, is we as a territory can't negotiate something when we're not a territory.
Yeah,
We haven't.
But going into this, we need to know where we stand.
The only number I've been given is that they have an obligation of about between $2,500 and $3,000 a month.
As
But
far
you
as
don't know
what?
what-
For all their assets.
Break that down. What does that include as far as?
No,
That includes what they are obligated to pay the bank.
but he doesn't know the length of the loan, and it's a brand new fire.
That's the only number that I've been able to be given, is that they're currently obligated about between $2,500 and $3,000 a month to the bank.
Now, you mentioned it needs $200,000 worth of improvements yet before it's legally be able to occupy.
That's correct.
And would that be on the nonprofit?
Yes.
Volunteers? Okay.
We have told them that, and they have agreed that the building would be fully occupiable and functional prior to executing any leases.
Okay, and is there a time frame on that then?
They've said that if this were to pass, it has to pass by April 1, and the territory becomes effective July 1, and they've told us that they believe that they would have no problem having that done. State law. That's,
Yep,
yeah. The way, and that's not us, that's the state of Indiana. The state, okay. The state of Indiana only allows you to do this between January 1 and April 1. And they also have, can I finish?
Right, and let's let Larry have the floor, please, public comment.
So, the state law requires us to do it between January 1 and finish by April 1.
All right, in the budget, we noticed that there's a breakdown of salaries and so forth. And what people would want to know is how many deputies are there and what is each one getting paid per year? And also the same thing for division, for battalion, for captain, for lieutenant.
I think it's in there.
Well, it doesn't tell us how many deputies.
Yeah, well, we want to.
The administration for the territory is laid out by adding one additional chief officer. Madison Township currently operates with 3, and it would add a 4th. The way the salary was done, initially, the intention was to make those full-time positions, but the budget wouldn't support that, so it was cut back, and all 4 of those positions would remain as a part-time salary. For budgetary purposes and proposal purposes, I make $30,000 a year to operate 2 stations. What I did is I took adding a 3rd station and changed that to $45,000 a year. And in doing so, that's the way we came up with those numbers. And ultimately, that is a proposal, that's an estimate, and you as the board set salaries.
I'm sorry, could you say that again about how many the breakdown was on the different?
Currently, Madison Township has 1 fire chief and 2 deputy chiefs. For the fire territory, it is proposed to have 1 fire chief, 2 deputy chiefs, and 1 division chief. So 1 additional chief officer.
What about the battalion, captain, and lieutenant?
That will come in down the road. That's part of the daily staffing. It does have a battalion chief, which would be the daily supervisor.
Is that just one person?
That's 1 person per day. That will be on a 24-hour shift.
Okay, so it's gonna be more than
So
one
there'll be a total of
employee.
three employees that would work a 24-hour shift.
Why do you need that many? And the captain and the lieutenant?
Because we operate on a 24-hour schedule, on 1, off 2.
One
So
officer per shift.
one supervisor to be a shift supervisor.
But it doesn't have to be a battalion chief, doesn't have to be a deputy chief, it can be a lieutenant, which is paid less. Why do you?
It absolutely could. We put together a proposal to have a fully functional fire department that operates like most other fire departments in central Indiana.
Okay, so there's 3 captains and 3 lieutenants also?
Correct.
For each-
So each station has a captain who's ultimately in charge of the station. Each shift has either a captain or a lieutenant. So
I wanted to see somebody.
this will put 1 captain at each station, and then 2 lieutenants would work the days
This
the
is all
captain's
got to be
out.
done before we can ever sign.
So a
the
total of
agreement.
9 officers,
I mean-
because you have 3 stations with 3 shifts, you have 9 shifts.
Okay, but you've got 312,000 for a lieutenant. What's the number of those?
That would be 6.
Okay, Thank you.
And that just, from the Excel spreadsheet that the budget proposal just didn't get pulled over into this printout. So there will be 1 fire chief, 2 deputy chiefs, 1 division chief, 3 battalion chiefs, 3 captains, and 6 lieutenants. The firefighter EMTs, off the top of my head, it's a total of 27 full-time employees. And then, the rest would be supplemented with part-timers as we do currently. And I'm drawing a blank here on how many that would be.
Okay, those are done at part-time salaries,
Yeah,
right?
correct. So the top being the battalion chief, captain, lieutenant, firefighter, EMTs, and the medics. The medics are currently part-time medics, and we are proposing our medics to go to full-time.
And how many of them?
There would be 2 a day, 1 here and 1 at the current Harrison Township station.
So 3.
So two a day,
3 a day.
2 a day. 2 ambulances. One our station on Kitchen Road would not have an ambulance run out of it initially. It would share resources.
So we're giving up our ambulance service?
They don't have an ambulance today. You only have 1 ambulance today, and it comes out of here.
So roughly 80,000 apiece for those
So the proposal for the medic salary would be $55,000. 6 medics at $55,000 comes out to $330,000. That does not include benefits. That's a separate line item that's on down. 2 a day for 3 shifts. So a total of 6. If I said 4, I apologize. Firefighter EMTs is 9 with a proposed salary of $50,000.
Okay, because you said 27 on the
Total,
firefighter.
total full-time employees.
You just said how many firefighters full-time before that?
So the full-time employees would be 3 battalion chiefs, 3 captains, 6 lieutenants, 9 firefighter EMTs, and 6 paramedics. So 15, 21, 24, 27. Yeah.
Oh, you just, how many firefighters did you say?
Full-time would be 9.
9 full-time. And the chief and the
The chief, the 2 deputy chiefs and 1 division chief would be part-time. And
Are all those chief positions going to be full-time?
they're all part-time. And that's, like I said, initially we started with them being full-time, but we couldn't, we had to back that out.
You're part-time too.
That is correct. All of our chief officers are currently part-time. How many? Say that again. Captains, that would be 3. Captain's proposed salary is $53,500.
There's a line item down there that says 580,500, but there's nothing, no description to it. What is that?
Health insurance. You have an old version that was added in the new
I
version.
pulled it off yesterday.
Off the internet?
Yeah.
Yep, that was the initial proposal.
Health insurance.
That's health insurance. And the way we came to that number is 27 employees with health insurance costing $21,500. And we based that off of Brown Township's current health insurance. They are a member of a township trust system.
Did they pay anything towards it?
That, I don't know. I got the number of what that, I know they pay something, I don't know what that is. And ultimately, that would be decided again by the board because the board administers the benefits. So, that, yeah, and I know Brown pays something, but I don't know what that is. We took the number, yeah, we took the number of what it cost them. So if you know, if we had $100 a paycheck that we charge our employees, it would obviously reduce by $100, by that amount.
Next question, all right. Harrison is now under the Morgan County EMS service. We would be providing EMS service. How difficult it is going to be to get get Harrison out of the Morgan County system. I called the director of the Morgan County EMS service. It doesn't seem like it'd be real easy to get out. You guys have any input on that?
Could you please stand, Mr. Harrison, say that again? I'm Terry White from your township.
Okay, so I talked to the DLGF, and that was actually one of my questions.
Department of Government Finance. Go ahead. Or just go ahead.
Did we get any answers?
I'll defer to legal, and they had a conversation today.
We talked to the DLGF today and gave them the citations. They're looking at it, and they're going to be the referee on this and make a call as to whether or not the EMS levy comes to the territory, if it's approved or not. It's not in the county's hands, it's not in the territory's hands. The DLGF is a state budgeting agency, and they are the impartial referee. They'll call it fair ball or foul ball and say it's under the territory statute. They do have one job in all this, and that is to look at whatever is approved and go through and look at all the mutual levies and determine that there are not double levies, that there are not two levels of taxation going on to any particular unit. So they will, if approved, make that determination. But having just got out of the assembly and they were talking about this morning, sort of recovering from what happened with the legislature, they're not going to do much on this until they find out if there's going to be a territory. So they're going to look at it, they'll give a preliminary opinion, but they're not going to do any work until they know that it's finally done.
So why are we getting a totally different answer for these two? Does it be hard? Does it be easy? Where's the truth?
Let me tell you what my conversation
I spoke to the director of Morgan County EMS services, who I spoke to.
Do you want me to speak to that for a minute? I met with the director of Morgan County EMS last week. I also met with County Auditor Dan Baston. They are ultimately interested in providing EMS to the entire county. They want to get into this area. They want to get into Brown Township eventually. Part of that discussion is how to do that. And our proposal that we presented and advertised did not take into account Morgan County EMS coming into Madison Township or the new territory. I agree with Sean Parrish. The state is not going to allow double taxation. They're not going to allow you to be taxed by Morgan County EMS and the fire territory. It's going to be one or the other. And if it ends up that the EMS tax stays in Harrison Township, then it's going to come back to the territory of how we operate EMS. And it's going to be different than our proposal, because our proposal is us providing EMS. If the state and the budgeting agencies say that they're not going to approve that, then we're going to have to adjust and work with Morgan County EMS on how EMS delivery in the territory ultimately happens.
Well, why are we doing this?
We put a proposal, like the attorney stated. It's up to them to interpret that. Our proposal is that we provide it. The county is wanting to get in here and provide it. They want to continue to provide it. So it'll ultimately come to the state to like I said, be the referee of who the money's going to go to.
Well, it sounds good. We should put this off like we suggested until next year then. Morgan County. Amen.
Amen.
So if just, are you a Madison resident or Harrison? Just
New Madison.
Okay.
Brand new.
okay. So if
Unfair question.
no, my response is focused towards the Madison Township resident. Currently, if we bring Morgan County EMS into Madison Township, your taxes are going to increase by the amount of the county EMS tax. You currently don't pay that. You currently only pay for a fire tax to the township. If we bring the county up here to provide EMS, then that additional taxation to have the county ambulance will be applied to all Madison Township.
You're telling us that. How do we know that it won't actually go down? Yeah, I just brought into this conversation.
That's just based on all the discussions that I have had with the county auditor and the EMS director, going all the way back to 2016 when they formed county EMS.
But we might be headed that way anyways, is what you're telling me.
It could. It could.
What would be that tax rate?
Does anybody have the county's current EMS rate?
11 cents. 11 cents per.
How much?
Yes. And but that's not just EMS. What we're proposing is also adding additional firefighters. We as township government are obligated to provide fire service. Our goal as firefighters is to create a fire department that provides a good service, provides fair wages and benefits, and we choose to provide EMS because we started that in 2003, because in this area of the county, no one else was doing it. Brown Township was overtaxed on their resources. They were overtaxing their resources, and we were not getting quality EMS in this area of the county. So that's why Madison Township chose at that time to start providing ambulance service. And when they did not, when the county started their ambulance service, they went as an extended service levy, so they got money to start theirs. Madison started theirs and funded it from current fire budget.
But the firefighter, you're saying it was a cheaper alternative?
No, I'm telling you that since 2016, when we went to the county and met with county, we have told them, my standpoint on county EMS from day one, January 1st of 2015 when I was appointed. I don't care what name is on the side of the ambulance. I don't care what color uniform they wear. I don't care where their check comes from. I want the best ambulance service for the residents of Madison Township. And if the county EMS can do it better, as good, for cheaper.
That was not the question. The question was if I only had 11 cents to 19 cents, I come up with somewhere close to 30.
Right.
Are you telling me?
You're going to pay 30 to get the exact same service you're getting today. Not what we're proposing. That make more sense? Yeah. Yeah. So if we brought county EMS today and we continue to operate as we are today, you're essentially paying 30 cents for the exact same services you're getting today. Dave said they
Do you guys know approximately how many EMS runs average?
Well, that's the one slide that I didn't see in this presentation that was in the first one, was the number of runs that was done. But as an average, over the last 3 years, I want to say it's been between 150 and 200 runs total for Harrison Township, and the national average, and they fall right in the national average, about 80% of those runs are EMS. Okay, the rest of them are fire-related runs. Okay, so you can safely say 120 to 150 a year are EMS runs for Harrison Township.
And if the territory is formed, who will be going down to, I know it's premature, but do you have any idea who would be overseeing Harrison Township on a daily basis as far as the fire department?
Well, it'll be Mr. Ryan, I think.
We would have to hire people. I mean, we would.
Well, I think the question you're asking, it's the fire territory.
Right.
Okay, if we formed a fire territory, okay, you're taking all of the resources between Madison and Harrison, mainly Harrison's resources that they could bring to the table would be that building and a few pieces of equipment, but the manpower is going to be a combination of mainly Madison's guys and whoever they hire, but it then becomes a different entity. It becomes the territory. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but what I'm looking for is specifically who's going to go down and oversee that station.
Well, that would be the battalion chief would manage all 3 stations, and I'm sure there's going to be station captains. So you'd have a station captain and the lieutenants. That's who's going to oversee. Is that what you're talking about?
So, in other words, instead of, let's say, we're going to promote one of these gentlemen over here, we're going to go hire somebody to oversee.
No, that's up to the chief.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Who's going to be overseeing?
Those promotions may come from within.
So currently today, we have 9 full-time firefighters. The proposal is to get to 27. That proposal is going to take into the 2nd and 3rd year before we get to 27 based on funding mechanisms.
Full-time?
Full-time. We still are going to have part-time employees, just as we do today. We are still going to have volunteers as Harrison does today. As this territory grows, Madison Township currently is a merit system, which you're aware of because you sat on the merit board. So any new full-time firefighters would have to be hired through that merit system, unless this legislative body and the firefighters that are in the system voted to abolish it. So any new full-time firefighters are still going to be hired through that same merit hiring system of advertising, testing, and interviews to establish a list.
Okay, so to be clear, July 1st is when, from territory is formed, July 1st would be the target date, really legally it has to be target date, to take over and make it a territory.
Correct. At that point, we would legally be obligated to provide fire protection to the entire territory.
Correct. So, once July 1st hit, if the fire territory is formed, I would assume that somebody from Madison Township would go down and oversee that station.
Initially, probably not, because we have no new funding to do that. So initially, July 1, 2020, we're going to leave in place the volunteer services there. They want to come in. They're going to come in and be part of the system. We will not have the funding mechanism to put full-time paid firefighters in that station day one. We won't have funding, you know, and Nick can maybe expand on this in a second, but it's going to take, you know, several different steps. It's going to take probably 2 or 3 steps before we go from where we are to where we want to be. So day one, there's not going to be a big change in the level of services that are provided. We're going to be obligated to take the runs over there. We'll probably be taking a lot of those from Station 31 currently. As their volunteers are there, or we're able to add staffing based on the budget funding.
What's that do to
we
your
will
response
build.
for Madison Township people though, if you're
sorry?
obligated to work over there?
Well, we're obligated here too. We will be obligated
You're
to
on
the entire
short
area.
manpower already, correct?
Right, we're running
So
with
if
minimum.
you're obligated there and you're obligated here, how are you gonna do that with the manpower you have?
We do that today.
Okay.
We dual respond into Harrison Township. We automatically respond into the town of Mooresville. We automatically respond with Brown Township. As do they. As do they. They come and help us. We go and help them.
Can I speak up in a minute?
White River and Barkersville, they already help us. We're not going to change any of our mutual aid agreements. We're not going to change. We have a countywide mutual aid agreement, so Green Township comes up and helps. Those aren't going to change. The day-to-day operations on July 1st is not going to change significantly. As the funding mechanisms come into play into next year and into 2022, that's when the changes will happen. So the way taxation works, and we get our tax money for in June. Well, that number's already set. So we're going to have to survive from July 1st through the end of the year based on the tax revenue that we get and that Harrison Fire District gets. But that's based on budget numbers that are already set. And then going into next year, yeah, we'll propose a higher budget, but we won't get that true funding until the first will be in June. So from January 1 until June, tax distribution, it still won't change significantly. So the first step up in true levels of service improvement is really going to happen, you know, 9 to 12 months after the territory truly starts. That's just based on funding.
But your taxes are going up next year anyway, due to the retirement that was correct?
I'm not following you. What, the retirement?
A couple of years ago, when you guys wanted your medical and you wanted the retirement, and didn't you say you was given one option or one
Yeah,
choice?
the current full-time employees. Yeah, current full-time employees.
Go into effect next year, 2021. So we're gonna see increase anyway.
We've been paying into the state retirement since 2014. We took away health insurance in 2014 and replaced it with the state retirement.
Well, I guess what I'm wondering is Harrison Township's right next to where 69 is coming through.
Correct.
So why not let that develop itself? As you said, it's gonna increase over us. Why don't we just improve what we got here instead of going over there? That's gonna happen anyways within 69.
Okay, let me ask one more question before we, let me ask one more question, and then the rest of the board is going to have their time for questions, and then we'll get to your questions. So as not to belabor this, I'm only going to ask one more question, and that is, would the fire marshal conduct inspections in Harrison Township as well?
Yes.
I know the answer.
Yes.
Yes. So, all right, I'm done.
Sounds to me like we already made a decision.
Chief, I'm just curious, on our ISO ratings, the territory goes through, can you walk me through that for me? Can you explain that to me? Because I will do a good job.
One of the things that homeowners insurance, businesses insurance is based on, it's called the Insurance Services Organization, ISO. You have a fire rating. So just last year, Madison Township was graded and we improved. We being the provider unit, we are now a 3. So that rating would carry over to Harrison Township. So the ISO rating improvement, what it does is if your insurance company uses it, not all do, but if your insurance company uses the ISO fire rating, then your insurance insurance should have reduced starting January of this year, or on your next renewal.
So Madison's not going to change?
Madison just changed, we were graded last year, it took effect in January of this
But
year.
with the territory, it's not going to change for Madison?
Madison,
So it
no.
will not reduce
Madison,
our
what it will do, it will, you'll see Madison should see the improvements this year. And then Harrison would, as a territory, Harrison comes in July 1, and they would be part of our unit, and our ISO rating would
So
carry.
no benefit
Why,
to Madison?
so for the Harrison people, if I understand this correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, theoretically, if our ISO rating goes down, then our homeowners should go down. To offset our taxes.
Correct.
It won't offset them. However, I'm just saying, it does not offset. I've been through this in Harrison Township before. The ISO rating will be better, but it's not going to offset your insurance.
According to my agent, it will, so I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
You would carry the Madison Township rating, which if your insurance company uses it, it should, be reciprocated in a reduced insurance.
What's Harrison?
Our ISO rating, I think.
Right now is between around a 7 or an 8.
Will that affect Madison?
No, one of the big factors of ISO rating is staffing and equipment. That's like I said, we were just graded, so our staffing and equipment was graded, our response models were graded, our county dispatch center and radios were graded, our water supply systems were graded. So Madison Township, like I said, is a 3. So that rating would carry over into Harrison. Now, would we be in jeopardy the next time that we're graded if we cannot continue to show those levels of service? Absolutely. So we would get graded again in about 5 years. So realistically, we have about 5 years to make sure that we're providing the same level of service and response in the Harrison Township's current district so that we don't lose that improved rating.
Yeah, but what about their water hydrants in Harrison?
As in Harrison, they don't have as many hydrants as we do. We're operating under what the tanker deployment model, and I don't remember the exact name. Part of the model is if you live 1,000 feet or more from a hydrant, it used to be a dual rated system. Well, they came and did a test where we are required to flow so many gallons a minute for so many hours, and we passed it. We participated in it. Harrison participated. Green, essentially, all of the fire departments in the county participated. And what we believe is going to happen is everybody that gets graded last year, this year, next year, that they're going to accept that tanker challenge and apply it universally to those that participated that day.
A battalion chief, keeping in mind I'm not a fireman.
Yep.
Are they operational?
They are typically an incident command. on an incident.
But they would be working daily,
Yes.
boots on the ground.
Yes, they would be working daily, boots on the ground, taking runs, taking the command, and that would be their job. Is daily staffing, daily operational issues, any, trainings, that all runs through the battalion chief.
Keeping in mind I'm one person on our board, if the budget was to be cut at all, where, and I'm not, if you can't answer that, where would it be the easiest place if we had to cut this budget?
Staffing. I mean, typically about 80% of any budget, municipal budget, is going to be your staffing, your personnel costs. So any reduction that's going to be your first place you go to look. Things like fuel, insurance, utilities, those are what they are. So that you can't really just go in and cut those.
Staffing or rank?
Staffing. I mean, our proposal is for full staffing, and we have enough in the part-time salaries to backfill for vacation, sick time, those types of things. Our proposed budget would put 4 firefighters on a fire truck every day, 365 days a year, including sick time, including vacation time. So the first place that we would probably cut would be a part-time. So your engines would run with 3 instead of 4.
And so, help me out, Ken. NAFPA, did I say that right?
NFPA.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So, we're currently not operating there, is that right?
We currently, the standard that I quoted today is for primarily career departments. That's the direction we want to go. Yeah. There's also a standard called NFPA 1720, which deals with volunteers. So what that does is it gives you more time to get on the scene. It gives you more time to get more people on the scene. But the numbers are still 15 and 28. They want 15 firefighters on the scene of a house fire. They want 28 firefighters on the scene of an apartment fire, a strip mall fire, a small commercial fire. That number's 28.
So, keeping in mind I'm only one person, with the majority of the boards not that you have somewhere in the proposed budget, would you still be able to function safely with your staff? I'm deeply concerned.
We would function better than we are today. Absolutely. There is the ability to reduce the staffing, operate better than we are today, but not at full staffing of the fully funded proposal.
But my firemen would be safe, is what I'm.
They would be safer than they are today.
How much would that take out of the budget?
If you wanted to take one a day, give me a second here.
I'm sorry.
No, right off the top, you can take $300,000 off of the
Is there any
salary.
more that we can shave off the budget?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number that we can come to say, we need to be here, or it doesn't make sense to do it.
Can we get that number before we vote?
Yeah. I was asked to put together the best case scenario. This is fully funding the best, fire department and operations and staffing to provide services. There's room to do better than we are today, but less than the proposal. Absolutely.
What do you want it? Just curious, what's the ultimate, why do you want it?
Why do I want it?
Yeah.
Because I live here and I got a family that lives here. I want to make sure
In Harrison too?
that my family, I live here in Madison
Yeah,
County.
so why would you want to push for us to take over Harrison too?
Pay and benefits.
That's
they
where I'm
can't
having a
get.
problem.
Because that's a funding mechanism. We in Madison Township cannot grow our fire department, we cannot grow our operations based on state tax laws. We just can't grow at the rate that the township is growing. So this is a funding mechanism that allows us to create a new levy to be able to fully staff our fire department, our medics, provide pay and benefits that is consistent with neighboring departments, and again reduce that 200+% turnover.
But it's at the cost of the school budget. We're losing 9% off of that, right?
No.
The school is gonna get their same amount of money. Your taxes are just going, the tax rate, total tax rate is going up, so instead of paying 60% to the school, now it's whatever it was. The school is still getting all their money minus the income tax. They're gonna lose some income tax.
How much money gets taken?
Because the tax rate's going up.
Yeah, by 250%.
Not by 70%.
But they're losing tax money, you just said that.
Yes, the school's getting more.
They're
They're
losing
losing
tax.
income tax money.
We're talking, guys.
School's gonna turn around and come back and say, we want more money too.
Right.
School cannot. Units of government can't just go
It'll
and
happen,
increase.
believe me, it will happen.
Units of government per tax law
Ernie, we're gonna get it free.
cannot just go and increase. There's always that.
When I hear 200% tax increase,
That's a 200% of the fire tax rate.
so when I pay my tax bill, through my escrow to my mortgage, or I pay it to the county directly, it's not, it's 1,500 to have, 200% of 1,500.
No, it's 200% of your fire tax rate,
But.
which is 17% or 30% of the total taxes you pay.
So pretty bad.
That's,
No.
of course.
Depends how much your house is.
How much your house
I want
worth?
to say something real quick. I've talked to several of you folks, and yeah, I know you've called the county assessor. The more your value of your home is, the higher your taxes are going to go up. So full disclosure there. One couple that's retired called the county assessor and found out their taxes would actually go up $800.
Yeah.
Another one I talked to, $260. That's not a night out on town. That's more than that. Okay? So full disclosure is, depends on the value of your home.
Yeah.
The market's up.
Yeah, the market's up. And if you've got a mortgage or a second supplemental homeowner.
I don't know the circumstances, but I don't know how, I mean, a $200,000 house would increase.
Yeah, so, well, I guess it might stand out.
So to answer your question, if a homeowner's insurance, if they're.
Put this in perspective.
If a home is increasing by $800, the assessed value of that home would have to be between $800,000 and $1 million.
No.
Whoa.
Based on our consultants calculation.
That's a Madison Township out there. Terribly low. And they're getting better.
Hey guys, can we just, one more time?
Somebody earlier said it was 30, we're going from 18 cents to 30, to 48. That's 30 cents. And that's per 100.
Yeah.
So if you have a $100,000 house, that's 1,000.
It's $300.
Hundred.
Per 100.
$300.
$300 bucks.
$300.
$300 bucks. You got a $100,000 house, your taxes are going up $300 bucks, that's 30 cents.
Rather than bombard her, can we let her answer and then we'll take more questions?
Okay.
This is your question.
Yeah. And it goes up every year. It doubles. Again.
So it's not penny for penny, okay? Because in Morgan County, you have what's called a property tax relief rate. That is a percentage. So you take what is owed and then it's reduced. So currently it's reduced. Your $100,000 house would pay $71, but it's reduced all the way down to 46. So as the rate gets bigger, so does that. So I showed you earlier, my math. A $100,000 house actually only pays taxes on $32,750. You divide that by 100, because property taxes in Indiana are per 100,000. 328 times 0.4613 is $151. You take away $52 more by the property tax relief rate that is paid from income taxes to reduce property tax rates. That's $99 for a $100,000 house. Mortgage.
Now do that on 347,000 with no mortgage, that's what I got. I confirm mine's 500 a year,
Okay,
500.
well, I can't do every taxpayer in Madison and Harrison Township.
You sound real good with the figures, like you did.
I think the average is 150.
No, the median is 168,000, I've got this.
Okay, well, 150 is, okay, well, 150 is pretty close to
Okay, but you're giving us $100,000 home or.
I also gave you 150 and a 200,000.
I beg your pardon, ma'am.
She did 150.
I beg your pardon, just as I was asked earlier to allow someone to speak, I was like,
Well, she's already answered it.
no.
Yes, she did. She gave 100,000, 150.
Yeah, just trust the tax rate.
My question was that it's only an 11%.
Harrison Township better not.
That leaves almost 90% of us above that mark somewhere. 52% coming in well above that. And yes, there are some homes that do climb up there into the bigger numbers.
Okay. I don't understand what your question is, I apologize.
You're floating a $46 number, which would only affect 11% of the population. That has been a big stretch of push of your presentation tonight, was the $100,000 home. It's been referenced numerous times.
Yes.
And that's only 11% of us.
Okay. Do you want me to run tax impacts for?
No, I want you to accept it right now that your $46 is.
So wait.
Okay, hold on.
Public comments will be at the end. We're out of
A
control.
point of order, Madam Chairman. A point of question.
This is
for
Morgan County.
clarification is a standard rule of
Madison,
Robert's
not
order
Harrison.
and is allowed at any time without a second. So please do not stifle my question.
I can't get mine answered, sir, because you keep.
No, sir, mine hasn't been answered yet.
Well, I thought I was first. I thought I was on the board.
Once you ask her to start
Yeah, you were
speaking, I'm allowed to ask her for questions
You
of
were
order.
appointed.
And I can't get feedback until I can, and they can unappoint me tomorrow. I'm good with it.
138.
It's not a problem.
So you can double that. So you can double that amount for your $400,000 house.
I understand how to do the math.
Okay, so it has been presented.
But my point being that we have constantly emphasized the $100,000 house. Which to me is, as we said here, other than, someone else feels it's misleading other than you.
I did because I was trying to get a wide range.
I think that. In fact, I've got several questions.
Oh, yeah, 200. That was the only one.
I'm so befuddled now, it wouldn't even matter. So, is Mr. Jones? Thank you, Mike.
I'll try to be brief. I just wanted to stand up for a few minutes and say to you guys, look, I'm a resident of Harrison Township, and I had someone ask me if I was an elected official. No, I'm not an elected official, okay? Those of us that serve on this township, the Fire District Board for Harrison Township are appointed by the county commissioners, okay? So I want you guys to understand that. We are not elected, we're appointed by your county commissioners, okay? There's 5 of us. We serve at their leisure. We serve for 4-year terms, okay? I want you guys to understand where I'm coming from, okay? Because I'm sure I'm going to get a bunch of phone calls after this meeting and people asking me what I think about this. My question for you, Chief, is has there been any discussion between you or anyone representing, getting this formed with any of the county commissioners to see what their stance is on giving up the EMS protection for Harrison Township? Do you know where any of the county commissioners stand?
The only one that I have talked to is the auditor and the EMS director.
Okay.
Direct. I know there have been discussions with Ryan Goodwin, who is our commissioner for this area.
Right.
But he has stated he supports it. But I personally have not met with him on this topic in the last month.
Okay.
I don't either.
So that's what I wanted to clarify for everyone here. And I understand you got a question. Hang on one second, ma'am. I wanted to know, because ultimately it's the county commissioners that are going to have a say whether they stopped taxing for ambulance service in Harrison Township. It's not the director, it's not the county manager, it is the commissioners themselves. I would like to know, have we had any discussions with them about this? Or have you or anyone setting this up?
I'm
I
of the
spoke with
belief,
Ryan this morning personally. He's not happy with the budget. He's glad here and talks to form a fire territory. Those were his exact words.
Okay. Okay, that answers my question.
And I tell them, like, I'm pretty confident that you're of the belief you're not gonna be able to act in Harrison Township.
Okay.
It still sounds pretty vague. You just talked to me this morning, and yet we've got to vote on this by April 1st.
March 27th is when we're supposed to vote. Ma'am, you've got a question, go ahead. Well, now here's the deal. We are the fire district board, okay? We contract with the volunteer fire department. They are the ones that applied for the grants. Any grant writing or any government money that we as the district board don't do, are not involved with the grants. The way that we get the funding for the fire department is we as a fire district board propose a budget to the county council, who either approves, amends, and then approves that budget. So that's how it works, and that's how it's structured so far for us as a fire district. Does that make sense? Those federal grants, that will be something the chief would be able to answer better than me, because I don't know. Because the Volunteer Fire Rescue of Harrison Township applied for those grants. Obviously, if they get approved, and if the territory gets formed, then those grants are coming to a different entity, and I don't know how that would affect them. I don't know if Chief Lang can answer that better than me.
that was actually a point of discussion just, I think, last night or the night before. Like I said, Harrison Township volunteers have applied for a grant. They've actually applied for multiple grants. There's a 10% matching fund that's required of that grant. So, if they get awarded 28 sets of fire gear at, $3,000 a set, we'll just estimate $75,000. They're going to need $7,500 in matching funds. So that's just, they will no longer have a revenue source from the district. So they will need that funding from somewhere.
Yeah, from us.
Yes, they have received grants in the past. Traditionally, there is a match in every grant. For them, I don't know. I know that the station was done on a grant in 2009, 10, 11 was the award somewhere in there. We can apply for the same grants, and it's a matter. We always try to get grants. Madison's writing a grant that's due tomorrow at 5 p.m.
Do we have any from 2019 that we got for this year?
The grant money that we got this year was not from the federal government. It was local money.
I didn't see any on the reports through that Indiana whatever.
Yeah.
Indiana Gateway.
The only money that was,
Nothing listed.
and Kelly's not here, the money that we received in grants this year was done through the start of a dive team to supplement the countywide water rescue team. So we received some funding from Walmart, REMC, and a few other local grants to do training and purchase some equipment. And that was done in a line item in the fire budget.
Trudy, where's the Harris Station chief at? Why isn't he here?
What is today's? Their assistant chief is in the back. I haven't seen him.
Did that trustee ever show up?
Sir, what's your question? You've been had your hand up for a while. What's your question?
We're getting the cart before the horse here. Does Harrison Township have the 200,000 cash on hand to bring that station up to date? Do they have it on hand?
we've been told and assured by them that the station would be functional by the time we.
That is not answering the question.
Wait.
How they get the funding is up to them.
Well, we got no business signing a lease with them unless that station meets our requirements, is up to date, meets state standards and all. So I don't see any way that can happen within the next 3 weeks. That's not going to happen.
We've got months.
Also, we shouldn't even be talking, we can't discuss a lease agreement. Now, it's obvious to me, money that's owed, once the volunteer part of it's dissolved, we're going to get stuck with that money, and we're going to have to pay it. And it's going to have to come out of Madison Township's budget. That's where it'll come from. The people of Harrison Township's not going to cough it up. And I'm very upset that nobody in Harrison Township prosecuted the thief that stole the money down there to start with. I'm very upset about it. I don't want you paying money back for a station, for a lease, when somebody's sitting down there smiling about it.
Hey, sir.
Not a bit.
Let me say what I came up here to say, and then I think most of you will understand where I'm coming from, okay? I was appointed to this position, and that makes me a fiduciary of the people's money, which I take very seriously, okay? I'm a resident of Harrison Township, so the taxes that may get imposed will get imposed on me also. But I got to say, sir, I very much am in agreement with you. There's some things that I learned in this presentation that I did not know. One is that all their fire gear is at end of life. One is that another is the hose is all as ancient as it should be and way past the life that it should be and hasn't been tested. So I'm going to say to the people that were in charge of that, how can you go get $1 million of federal money, which is taxpayer money? It all came from you, me, and we. Okay? And spent on that building, and yet the fire hose didn't get tested. The pumps on the engines didn't get tested. All this gear is at end of life. Shame on them. Now, I've only been on this board for 1 year, and I've learned a lot. But I'm telling you right now, as a fiduciary of your people's money, I'm with you. I do not want to be on the hook and put you, me, and we on the hook for a bunch of money for that building that was already paid for once with federal dollars, and now there's a loan on it, and they're wanting us to foot the bill? No, sir. I'm not on board with that.
There's problems that can't be solved by the time you want to meet this deadline.
I think Harrison needs to learn how to take care of themselves instead of relying on the neighbors.
Yep, I'm gonna go down the list, and when I call your name, we're gonna time you, you got 3 minutes.
I have like 7 from the attorney.
That was presented earlier today. I reviewed the statutes. There is no legal conflict of interest.
What is it? That somebody that's married to a firefighter is not going to vote in favor for something that she's going to personally benefit from?
I have no idea what her vote is or is not going to be. I just reviewed the statute, and the territory statute doesn't prevent it. The conflict of interest statute doesn't qualify on this one. And there is another Title 3 pertaining to firefighting and pertains to volunteer firefighting.
That's so ridiculous. You believe that?
What about not putting it in the paper timely?
I have the paper if you want to see it. I brought it for you.
Where's last month's meeting minutes? It was put in the paper on the 12th of February. They're not on the website.
They don't get on the website until they're approved. They have to be approved first.
It wasn't in the paper
That's the
timely.
statute, but once they're approved by the board, they're usually done in a couple days. You want to see the paper?
It was put in the paper on February the 12th, and that is not 10 days before the date of the meeting to be published. So legally, it is not in the paper timely.
That's true.
statute says.
So does that make this null and void?
Yeah. Good question.
What Trudy is
Good
saying,
point.
Well, you gotta watch.
what Trudy is saying is that you're required to post a public notice in the paper at least 10 days prior to the public hearing,
Yep.
giving the public ample time to prepare for the hearing. The public notice was published on February the 12th, 2020. And the first public hearing was held on February the 21st, 2020. Since that's only 9 days, you're in violation of Indiana Code 531, invalidating the public notice. No, it's not. It's 9 days.
Read the sentence again about prior.
It has to be before the date of the meeting, not 10 days before the date of the meeting.
The public notice was published on February the 12th. The first public hearing was February the 21st. That's only 9 days.
Listen to the station. Read the sentence about prior to the date of the meeting. So we're all clear on what you're saying.
You're required to post a public notice in the paper at least 10 days prior to the public hearing, and then this part of it is mine, to give the public ample time to prepare for the meeting, for the hearing.
At least.
But it's only 9 days.
Just a minute.
He's trying to use at least as saying they did.
Right.
Huh?
He gave you the date.
Correct, because the statute reads prior to the date of the meeting. So you can't count the date of the meeting if you're reading the statute prior to.
That's right.
I don't agree with that.
It is.
Black and white.
They're saying that it was published soon enough and
I know, but it's around.
because it said
Proposed tax rates and levies.
at least 10 days prior.
For the fire territory to be listed as follows. The first year is .4613, second year .4710, third year .4809. But the rate that was advertised in the public notice in the paper on February the 12th for the fire territory was different. It showed the rate to be only, for the first year, 42.46, second year 43.43, and the third year 44.42. This is misleading, and you can get away with a mistake if it is not if you've advertised a larger rate than you intended, but not if you advertise a rate that is less than what you're talking about here in the public hearing. This puts you in violation of Title 5, Article 3, Chapter 1, Section 2.3. And this violation makes this public notice also invalid. So you're invalid on 2 points as far as I'm concerned. Now, I have another thing I would like to comment on. Your presentation showed on the page about the impact on the county income tax, and it showed a negative impact on all other units in the county. That is every taxing unit. That's schools, libraries, and everything else in the county. Now that suggests to me that all the other units in the county will be wanting to make up those negative impacts.
Yeah.
Also, public notices normally state where in the code that you're given an authority to take an action that you're planning to take. This gives the public an opportunity to read the code and learn the details of what you intend to do and formulate questions prior to the meeting. In this case, that should have been, you should have stated that you have the authority by Indiana Code 36-819, which is the code regarding fire territories. But since the public notice failed to give that information, I feel that that too is a problem with your public notice, and that's 3 problems with your public notice.
I got a couple more. So what's the answer on the date?
Attorney says we're good. I'm
We're not going to get one.
Prove him wrong.
This is Greg Terhune. He hands taxes. This is what he does for a living.
Tell her to start calling the names off.
People are starting to leave. Let's get into the questions.
Linda Warland.
True.
I think you guys have a good puzzle, but at this time, I'll answer, please not answer. And I would myself vote no.
Tom Harper.
What?
Tom Harper here.
Tom Harper?
No, he did.
He got tired of waiting.
Henry.
I've jotted down just a few questions. Number one, the trustee, he's a senior elected representative from Madison Township. And you said he was at work. Why isn't he here? Want somebody to answer that?
Yeah, 7:30.
Sessions on his left.
He should have been here when they opened up the meeting.
He's losing time. The township's got the way they waste money, they ought to pay his lost time to be here. Number two, what's his position on this merger? What's he, I'm wondering what he's thinking about.
Does he get a vote?
I sent him an email, he never responded.
He's for it.
He doesn't get a vote, so.
No, he doesn't
At
vote.
the
But
end
he
of the day.
pointed to people, the fire chief, and he pointed.
I work at the pleasure of the trustee. If he disagrees with what I presented, then
You're saying the trustee agrees with you?
he's aware of my proposal.
That's why he should be here, so that he can see all these people that are opposed to it, so he can answer us why he appointed you.
These are the ones that will
It
vote
doesn't
on.
matter, it was him.
He's got a vote in that too.
Who gets to vote?
Number three, March 27th, you're going to vote. The question is, who gets to vote? The 3, and what about the Greg? Or Harris?
They're 5.
Why is it? How come they're the one that outnumber you? If they're 5 and you're 3,
That's the way their board is set up.
That's not
only
fair.
3 of them should be able to vote.
One does not control the other. They have to reach the majority, they have to reach the
But they all have to gain.
They have to get majority and we have to get.
Yeah, but their taxes are going
So
up
it's not like if they get all 5 votes yes, it overpowers us.
If we do not vote for them, that's easier.
If they don't reach a majority, or we don't reach a majority, if either party doesn't reach a majority, it doesn't happen.
So it has to be 100% on both sides?
No.
Okay, we're back to Pelosi.
As serious as this matter is.
Quiet.
Hey,
Go ahead.
as serious as this is, I think in order to be on members of Madison Township vote and elect.
But you guys, you realize that you voted us in.
Yeah, well,
You didn't tell us your policies.
Right, we are elected officials. Right, but I'm saying.
You're gonna vote to increase our tax.
You voted us in if you would.
That doesn't mean you can't put it on the ballot.
You looking to get in or get out?
Hey, what you're doing is Madison Township is adopting Harrison Township like you adopt a child. You have to take care of them
Take his call.
They had to start before enough numbers.
Who?
John Wagner. Wagner here.
Terry Moore.
Jerry Moore.
Yeah, I think you pretty well answered my question I was going to have. I still think it should be a vote with the people. We're the ones spending the money. And we're the ones that have to put up the bill. I'm retired now, so I live on a fixed income, and I budget what my money gives me. And I don't need to be paying out more taxes for another township. That township should take care of itself. We took care of ourselves for a lot of years, and I think Harrison should take care of themselves. We're not a charity to everybody and everybody. That's what Trump tells everybody. We're not a policeman for all the people all over the world. We need to take care of our own. That's what we're trying to do here, take care of our own. Not take care of another. They got problems, and they need to try to fix them. Now they've got somebody else. You make a territory. Now, if that's going to happen, Harrison shouldn't even exist anymore and make a Madison.
Two things on that. One, the board on the county level or whatever, we don't get to make the laws. The
Well,
fact
you're
that
trying to
the-
dictate the law.
Let me finish. The fact that we would like to vote on it as taxpayers, I'm not opposed to that. But that's not the way the law is set up, okay? And the other part of it is, the fire territory can be dissolved later if there's an issue. Now, there's certain rules, but it can be dissolved.
That's all Harrison got to do, just say no.
Territory is established and it is dissolved. The tax rate still stays the same, correct?
You adopt the WAC.
It's not going to go back to what it was.
Right. And then the assets are divided up the way they're
David Curry.
David Curry.
Yeah. Who?
David Curry. John Fletcher.
I have a question for Harrison Township. Fire district board. Who actually owns the station in Harrison Township?
That would be, it's actually owned by a trust that is the volunteer fire, I believe it's the volunteer fire rescue of Harrison Township.
So the members of the fire district board do not actually control that building, correct?
No, sir, we do not.
What's the money goes to? Question for you people is, have any of you talked to the county officials that appointed you to the board about whether they're willing to give up that EMS tax?
You know what, I've had a conversation with one commissioner, and he was really not overly informed about what we're going on here. So as far as he was concerned, the jury was still out a little bit with him. I have not spoke to the other two. I fully intend to. I wanted to see, after tonight's meeting, any other new information that may come to light, what questions may get asked, what information may come out. And then that gives me a better idea to go to the commissioners and ask them their thoughts on this.
Do you know where the ambulance that serves your township comes out of?
The ambulance that serves our township comes from Martinsville.
Your BLS ambulance comes out of the township, so most of the ambulance in
The ambulances that respond to Harrison Township, if someone calls 911, that ambulance comes from Martinsville, okay? Because it's an ALS ambulance, all right? The ambulance that's in Green Township is a BLS ambulance. So the way it's set up right now, anyone calls 911 that lives in Harrison Township gets the volunteer fire department, they get an ambulance from Martinsville, and then the director for EMS has set up a memorandum of understanding or mutual aid with Bargersville Fire Department. So you would get an ALS engine from Bargersville Fire Department. So that's the current response model for Harrison Township. Does that make sense?
I understand.
Yeah, if I had a heart attack, I'd feel dead.
I've got a few comments. First, I'd like to say thank you to our fire department for all the work that you do, and also for the, I don't know if there's any volunteers for Harrison. I grew up as a volunteer fire department family. I was a junior firefighter, so I appreciate the work they do. As far as this passing and things go, I know my family feels like this isn't a good time with I-69 coming through. We should see how that plays out. Harrison is going to change a lot. You know, it's probably going to be split in the middle. Some of it should go to Shelby County and get divided up differently. I don't know how that works, but a lot of things are going to change. I think it's a better way. Significantly and most recently with the situation with the coronavirus, I know where I work, we're feeling that economically, we're very possibly going to face a recession. This is not the time to raise our taxes in Madison Township. It's in Harrison Township. We're all going to need anything we got, right? I'm speaking tonight on behalf of a few of my farmer gentlemen, elderly gentlemen who can't get here because of their concern about the coronavirus. They are not able to risk it right now. They are on fixed income. They cannot afford the tax increase either. So lastly, well, a few other things I had on here have been answered, but we do wonder why Harrison Township can't just have their own fire district. Madison Township has a fire district. Yes, is there opportunity to improve Station 31? I live close to that, probably, but then we have to go to this extreme of a level. Why can't Harrison Township have theirs and we continue with Madison Township? Number 5 was going to be the salaries. I saw on there, you know, $150,000 for different things. We did help break that down, that it's divided by number of people. I think that this list should represent that, and that would probably give us a different perspective. When I saw $150,000 for a chief battalion officer, I was like, oh my gosh, I'd like to make that myself, right? But it's not one, right? So that puts a different perspective on it. And then lastly, like, I don't know how we influence the vote. Do we all send you letters so that you understand the voice of the community better? If so, can we get your addresses so we can bombard you with that?
My phone number's in the paper.
I accept Oreos.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to answer, can I answer your question number 4? Okay, because you talked about why can't Harrison do this on their own, okay? And I would like to speak to that just a little bit. Geographically, Harrison Township is one of, if not, the smallest township in the state of Indiana, okay? So when it comes to firefighting, this is something that's close to my heart. I'm a retired firefighter. I spent 21 years in the fire service. I still work as a paramedic, okay? So I understand, you know, where you're coming from as far as, hey, I support these guys. I want to make a difference for them and in turn make a difference for everyone here. So the reason we're having this discussion is because really this is not something that Harrison can do on its own. That being said, there's been a lot of concerns and a lot of points raised this evening that I happen to agree with. Maybe we need to slow down, take a step back, and so yes, the voices have been heard, don't get me wrong. And maybe there's a more excellent way, as a possible. So don't get me wrong, I want you to understand where I'm coming from, but I do want to support these guys. I do understand where Chief Lang is wanting to go with this. As a firefighter, I am supportive of what he's wanting to do because I know at the end of the day, it's going to make it safer for them. It's going to make it safer ultimately for you guys. Okay? Because when he talks about the turnover rate, and I don't want to get out in the weeds here, I'm sorry, but their turnover rate's been 200% over the last 5 years. Okay? That means they've had a complete turnover of their fire personnel because they're going other places to find a place where they can have benefits. Okay? And so if you know somewhat the amount of time, the amount of money, the amount of blood, sweat, and tears it takes to train an individual to become a firefighter, let alone a lieutenant or a captain, and you invest quite a bit in those people, and then you watch them walk out the door again to start that process all over again. So the product that they're going to put on the street is never going to be as good as it could be until we start retaining some people. Okay? So I won't say that I'm all the way on board, and because I'm a firefighter, I'm totally in on this, and I won't say that I'm totally against it either. There's still some information, and there's still some feedback from you people I want to hear. But I hope that clarifies some of that.
Can I say, I apologize, I should have said it. Something that bothers me too, just for everybody in the room. Waverly Elementary has all of our, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, special needs kids through the Boise school system. And that ambulance is currently coming online. So, food for thought.
No, they're not all.
For Boise schools? No. Severe special needs? No. Severe special.
All right, well, I did mention this in the first public hearing, I did tonight. About 300 students in Waverly Elementary are actually Madison Township residents. So that was something I did mention the last time that I didn't tonight. So again, that is an aspect of working together across, township lines to create the territory. Is about 300 of our kids go to school over there next to a fire station that's unmanned and unstaffed.
It's Mooresville's consolidated. It makes no difference. It's in Harrison or where. We're all consolidated school corporations.
Right, I'm saying Madison Township.
I understand what you're saying.
Send about
But
300 kids to Waverly.
we consolidated our schools and Harrison came in with us. So it's all Mooresville schools. It don't matter if you're from Madison, Harrison, or Mooresville.
That really's got nothing to do with it.
The point is,
This back and forth is taken away from our 3 minutes.
Yeah.
The point to this conversation was, folks, not about the schools themselves, it's about the fire protection for that school, okay? And right now, that school is in a location that's an all-volunteer fire department with a very long response time, okay? And by doing this, we would very much improve that response time and the safety of those school kids, okay? That's the talking point, that's the information that we're trying to get across, okay? That makes sense?
I understand what you're doing.
Okay.
You're playing on our heartstrings, so we'll
No, I'm not trying to play your heartstrings.
Okay, let's not get off the subject, we got a lot of people still here.
I can't pronounce your name, so I'm gonna tell you where you live. 7236 East Spring Lake Road.
Oh, no.
No, she's out there.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna have to pass, I'm talking here. Let somebody else have the floor.
Okay, we got somebody up here.
Hi, my name is Tina Turner. I'm the precinct chairman of Madison 2. And I don't know if you know this, but there was a turnover in the Madison Township Advisory Board. And on February 2nd, we had a caucus with all the 6 precinct chairmen of Madison Townships to vote in a new advisory board member. And so that was just February 2nd. And this whole topic was not brought up at that caucus meeting. Obviously, this was in the works. They didn't tell us about it. We had no inclination this was coming. Thankfully, 3 of us, 1 person didn't show up, 3 of us voted for Larry Ellis, who is not supportive of this proposal.
Yeah.
So now we have a fighting chance that we just need to turn over 1 more of these board members to keep it happening in Madison Township. So that's pretty important to know that if this went in the paper on February 12th, February 2nd, it was Super Bowl Sunday, we had a caucus right out there in one of those portable units. And this topic did not come up. And he was just saying here, they've been talking about this for months, for years.
Decades.
And anyway, I just felt as a person had to make a decision on who was going to represent us in Madison Township, I should have known that. I should have known. It should have been come up. They had time to talk about it at the meeting. We were there twiddling our thumbs for a long time before we actually even started. I voted for Larry, yes I did. I want to add one more thing. Are you kidding?
That's not her point.
The point is that she's elected.
Her point is, she was not advised, and I was not advised, as to what the nature of this meeting was. It wasn't able to be discussed at the time of the caucus. That's the point. It's not who was elected,
So
it wasn't who was appointed.
then I found out, I didn't even know about the first Friday meeting, but the last meeting is on a Friday. It's also the Friday of spring break. These meetings were planned for you not to attend, not to know about it. To schedule a meeting on a Friday, the people are leaving in for spring break probably Thursday. They're expecting not to have a good turnout. So please, if you're not going anywhere for spring break, and then we might actually have a coronavirus where we can't even come to the meeting.
It's not supposed to.
Because
It was the governor
there's just
talked tonight.
that situation
I
here.
know. I tried to talk to somebody to get them out of this.
So when I did hear about this, I reached out to my county commissioners, my county council members, and they had very short notice of this. And this is something that affects the whole county. And county council should have known about this before the first meeting. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tony Perry. First of all, you Harrison people, I feel your pain there. You're in a bad situation, but it's really not my problem. The way what I've got from this meeting so far is that Harrison Township doesn't own a fire department, and the guy they contract with has jumped. So this is a plan that they're going to come out with a pretty good deal, not so much for the Madison folks. All it's going to do is raise our taxes, and if anything, lower the response time that we have on equipment that we already have and pay dearly for. And what it really boils down to is it's money, payroll to the firemen. The chief, he's said as much in what I read in the paper. Now, just so happens the next week the paper published everybody's payroll. It was just a coincidence what I caught up on. Now, you mentioned earlier tonight you make 30 grand plus a car and it's a part-time job. And I also have heard that you're a full-time government employee at another organization, so you're knocking down some pretty good money, and I'm good for you. But
I work a lot, though.
So do I. And I earn it, believe. Okay, so you told me earlier that base pay here for the lowliest volunteer is $11 an hour. Now that's quoted a lot around the community, but what they don't tell you is that's a 24-hour day, and 8 of those hours are probably asleep. So that, bottom line is that factors into $32,200 a year. That's pretty good money for a part-time job. You only work 2 days a week. To put it in perspective, private in the Army makes 25 grand, a sergeant makes 33. So a starting out guy right there in the back of the truck, knocking down 32 grand a year, part-time job, comparable with if he's in the Army, sounds like fair wage to me. Now, don't get me wrong. I think you got a great department here. First-class equipment, everybody's well-trained. You're doing a hell of a job, really. You're earning your money. The problem is, a lot of folks in the community don't trust the fire department because you waste a lot of money. And what I mean by that is, don't you have a truck on order right now paid $800,000 for?
No, we paid $723.
Okay. We got some pretty nice looking trucks sitting right here. Now, the argument I always hear is not the mile, it's the hour, and that's crap. These trucks should last 25 years, no problem. If they've got a lot of miles an hour on them, it's not because they've been fighting fires. It's because they're in Mooresville having lunch every day.
Come on!
But I also want you to be conservative with my money. So instead of burning your hard-earned taxpayer money on diesel fuel to go to McDonald's or whatever else you're doing with it, how about, they serve lunch over here at Daniel's and you're in the community. At 12:30 today,
And we have a kitchen.
okay, one more point.
Both places
12:30
did.
today, engine 31 went hauling out of Mooresville at the intersection of 67 and 144, heading east to 5 Points. You talked about your turnout time. I'm curious, what's the turnout time from center of Mooresville to my house if I'm dying over there? Fix that problem, I'll give you a raise.
So, when I came here tonight, I was wanting to make sure that our county, or our township wasn't paying a disproportionate price for a service that was going somewhere else. But then, I think everyone else is going to address that and whether or not the timeline and that makes sense. You were talking about 200% turnover rate in this particular township, in this fire department. What would it take from a salary standpoint to have the same retention rates as surrounding departments?
I think our salary is close. It's the benefits that we're lacking. We don't offer health insurance to any of our employees. That's what we're lacking.
And so there is a number, or there is a number that you could post. If we were to have this meeting a year from now, there is a number that you could post that says, look, with this type of benefit package or this type of salary, we could have the same retention rate, have professional firefighters. I'm interested in that because my son wants to be a firefighter. And when I talk to him about, talk to our kids about having a job versus having a career. When I talk to them about having a career, I send them to Indianapolis and I said, look at IFD. Don't look here. And my interest would be that he would want to serve his community, but I want to make sure he was going to have the same pay, the same benefits that's commensurate with people in the same profession. So here's the thing. I'm thinking, my biggest thing is, I was listening to all the comments tonight, and I understand everything has to be done by April 1st, but it doesn't say April 1st of 2020. It seems to me that it might make sense, with all the questions that we have, to go ahead and delay this by 1 year, just 1 year, and make sure that all the questions, we have an opportunity, a public forum, to put the question in, to give the board an opportunity and fire chief to be able to come back and explain those things, a better opportunity for us to get all the information. And yes, you already said it, it's not something you can put up for a vote because the state does not operate like that. But at least if we had a year from now and we had the questions answered, then we should be able to make the right decision, either as a board or a collective community. I think the biggest thing I want is, as the son of a future firefighter, is for us to also make sure that we're not saying that, well, I'm okay if the equipment's a little bit better than junk, or I'm okay if we have semi-trained people for 2 years and then we lose them to another department. I want to make sure we have the right service, and I want to make sure we're paying people the right way. But I think we should wait a year.
Thank you.
Well, I apologize that I don't have a very strong voice, but I want to say, well, first of all, you all have a lot of responsibility. I wouldn't want to be sitting in your shoes or sitting in your chairs. This is a very important topic, and it's important to everybody, no matter where you live. You don't want to know that if you call for fire help or an emergency situation, you want to know the people that show up are trained, they've got good equipment, they know what they're doing. And I feel like we totally need to investigate this, give it what it deserves as far as asking questions, so that we make a good decision for everyone, not that we just rush into doing something in a couple weeks. And I feel like tonight, we have way more questions than answers. And a couple of things that this is just off the top of the head, because I'm getting new to this. I didn't know about the first meeting. And I just want what's right for all of our neighbors, not just my little piece, everybody, and all the guys that work here. We want qualified people. But one of the things I heard that I brought up was that the district or territory has to be 2 townships, and they have to be contiguous. Is that true? It can only be 2, and is Madison the only option for Harrison? That is one of my thoughts. If it wasn't Madison teamed up with Harrison, what would it take to bring Madison up to an FTA standard? And then I can't lose sight of the fact that with I-69 coming in, we've got a naturally occurring growth in Harrison. Probably is going to self-stabilize this whole thing. And I feel like if we just jump in and make a quick decision for the calendar's sake, we're not doing our due diligence in this way.
Most of the questions I had was already asked. One of them is for both the counties or the townships, is about how many people reside that is on fixed budgets. And what you're asking for the homeowners in these two townships to spend for the increase to benefit our safety, I think is a great way out of line. I think it should be a lot lower. You're trying to get where you need to be tomorrow instead of down the road. And I don't believe that should be working out at all. So let's just say this passes. Can you do this again next year, and the year after, and the year after? How often can you do
The
this?
only reason there would be if another unit wanted to come in, or if one of the units wanted to go.
Okay, so it can happen.
Yes.
Okay. So the last question I got is, everybody wants to throw mail to you guys and spend 55 cents for a stamp. I'm going to ask for a show of hands who's for this. Raise your hand. Okay, who's against it? Raise your hand. So tonight, this community, which is very small because a lot of people didn't show up because they were asked not to join meetings, or they were older and they had underlying health issues that they didn't want to show up, so they couldn't voice their opinion, which I'm the one that contacted a couple of you here and asked for you to postpone this because of this reason. And there was one person here that said maybe, I was told that he can get it stopped, and it didn't get it stopped. I don't know who it was, I don't remember his name, it doesn't matter. But you have heard from a dot of the people that live in both these townships. And I think Harrison Township, with the problem they have with that guy stealing the money, and nothing ever happened, I think that's a problem that they should weigh out, take care of themselves. And with the grant money that you're getting, and all the numbers that you have thrown in, and you have not got it approved yet, and you throw in this new Madison Township, I think your grants would all be stopped because all the numbers would be wrong. So all the money that you're going to get, which would probably be more than, I'm not saying maybe more than what you were going to get when you joined, I think that's a losing battle on your part, because the numbers will be way off. And then once you push over to that and say, hey, we're joined up, they're going to say, you're not getting none of these until you show us new numbers. And then after the new numbers, who knows, you might not get it. So that would be a chance that your vote yes would take away that money, because none of you guys come here today, except one person, that's Larry, with definite answers. You maybes. There were just too many unanswered questions that you guys should have had all this together with how many years? 30 years? 10 years? How long have you been talking about this merger?
4 years. Recently, about 4 years.
Okay, 4 years. And then you hear about other people that should have been hearing about this and never got brought into the subject. And somebody says this guy's on board and the other one says maybe. It's just too much conflict. If you guys want to bring something to the table for the taxpayers, it should be cut and dry. And it wasn't cut and dry tonight. There was too many open holes that you guys brought to the table, not us. There were so many questions that didn't get answered. And I believe this gentleman up here that's talked about the rule where it's the 10 days or whatever in the meeting, I know for a fact that's true. And I don't know where your stand is or who you are. I know you're a lawyer, but I don't know what kind of lawyer you are. But whatever. What's that?
He's their lawyer, that's kind
Okay. Anyway.
I need help. He's not helping me.
Anyway, if there's a conflict of interest and you said there wasn't, that's fine. But if I call your office tomorrow and give you my email, can you send me documentation, which this is what I'm wanting from you, to prove what you just said about that? And this gentleman right here said that this meeting shouldn't be going on. Can I get some documentation that he's wrong?
It's available in the statute, but it would...
I know what the statute said. He read it.
You're our lawyer. You can provide that.
Ask him why he disagrees with it.
Okay, so that's all, that's I'm done. I got my 3 minutes, but I'm just asking you, I got your phone number, and I want to get documentation from that. Because this meeting probably will be void. Thank you.
Everybody asked about family obligation, but everybody has my cell phone number. If you don't, find it on Facebook, Google me, it's down public.
So you're not going to stay and listen to, you're going to be voting.
What about my family? What about me?
Okay, okay. Where,
You should let us talk first. Yeah. I believe you should let us talk first. I didn't know it was anything. No.
we didn't.
Whoa, what about us?
Everybody's gonna get to talk.
It's okay, she'll hear it, we're recording.
Hey, hold on. You're really, folks,
That was wrong.
her number is in the paper.
Yeah.
You're welcome to call her anytime. She has a family obligation, can't help us. I understand, all of our times are important.
I didn't see them at all today.
All right, Nelson Hogger. Nelson Hogger.
Well, like a lot of people, I just found out about this, and so I got on the phone, I went to Martinsville, I talked to elected officials, trying to learn as much as I could about it. I read everything that was available about this, and basically I have two things that, I'd like to ask the board. I'm from Madison Township. I'd like to ask the Madison Township Board to vote against this. One of them's gone. I can't tell her, I guess I can call her. And to everyone else here, I just want to say that someone brought up they used a $100,000 house. Well, that's textbook. It doesn't matter if it's a school or whoever wants something, they always use that. And if you take off your $45,000 homestead credit and some other credits, you don't have much to tax on. You got $30,000 to take the tax rate times. Well, I'm in a $347,000 house, and good for me, but you take that little bit off of that, you still got a whole bunch of money to do the math on. And I went down to the courthouse and talked to the assessor and the auditor, and they confirmed what my wife calculated. This is a $500 a year tax increase for us, just for this. Not the reassessment or anything. That's another $300 that we'll be paying next year. $500. So when they throw out $50 or $8 a month, don't listen to them. Go down to the courthouse. If you don't feel comfortable in doing the math, go down there. They've got all this information down there. They've got your information on your house, and they'll tell you exactly what it's going to cost you. So that's an issue. And I have a question for the lawyer. Could you tell me why you disagree with the Indiana code?
I disagree with the count.
I'm hard of hearing.
I disagree with the count.
Oh, the number of days?
I disagree with that.
How are you counting?
I'm including the day. I'm including the day.
The 12th would be day one.
It says before the day of the meeting, though.
Well, if you do it in hours, you don't get 20.
Prior to.
I'm counting the 12.
You can't count the 12.
Just count the 21st.
10 days from the 12th is still the 22nd.
That's about all I had. I had a lot of other
12 plus
questions.
10
Some of
is
them
22.
kind of got
Tax
answered.
didn't change.
I agree with pretty much what most people said, especially this gentleman. I mean, it just seems like it's being rushed, so many unanswered things. And to me, it seems like I can't see any benefit. They tried to put a little spin on it for Madison Township. I don't see any benefit for Madison Township at all out of this. I feel bad for Harrison, honestly do. But I'm just wondering if maybe they haven't explored everything. I mean, I talk to my elected officials. I mean, Rod Bray, anybody. I'll talk to anybody. I have talked to them about things, and maybe they can go to them and say, look, we're this little community and whatever, and take all their problems there. Is there anything anywhere that can help us, or some elected official? Are there tools available. They can't be the only community like this in Indiana, you know, and have you really explored all that? I mean, for them, if they gone and said, poured their hearts out, said, you got to help us. I mean, we're in dire needs here. We can't expect a bunch of taxpayers in another township. I mean, I could see a merger if it brought the tax rate down and it benefited both communities, but this isn't like that. You know, it's you got Madison Township paying the lion's share of this. I mean, you spin the numbers and they're paying the same rate we are, but the actual amount of money, you know, we're paying it. I mean,
Time's up, Nelson. Sorry.
huh?
Time's up.
Well, that's fine.
Bam, where's Bam? Bam something. Lives at 6992 East Bunny Lane. Not here, huh? Robert Lambert.
Here.
Yes, sir.
I kind of got the feeling that there seemed to be a lot of unanswered questions. And one of my concerns was the assumption of the responsibility for covering Harrison Township and not knowing what it's going to cost to get that fire station up and running with equipment costs. You listed a whole list of equipment, things that need to be rechecked, need to be certified, is probably outdated or needs to be refurbished or replaced. Do you have a good idea what that cost is going to be? Have you figured out what it's going to cost you to equip that fire station?
We are comfortable that we would be able to do it with the advertised equipment replacement fund.
Okay. And you don't have to extend your debt, you wouldn't have to extend your debt with that?
At this point, no, because like I said, when we first had discussions, we were not aware of the fire truck that they are currently having built, and that fire truck that they are currently having built would fill the gap from what we thought we were going to have to do initially.
Are Madison Township going to purchase that fire truck?
No, the current Harrison Township Volunteer Fire Department has taken out a loan for that fire truck.
So they're going to sign you a lease agreement for that truck?
That would have to be negotiated by the territory board.
So then, this agreement that you have with Harrison Township, is this a contractual agreement to provide services for them? How does this work?
Talk about today or with a proposal?
To the proposal.
A territory is a contract,
okay.
a interlocal agreement contract, so the two of us would work together.
What about the present debt service for Madison Township? Are you debt free at this time, or how are you servicing that debt?
So Madison Township currently carries a debt as we have for 15 years, roughly.
No, we just took out a loan in
Yeah, we took an $870,000 loan last year for a fire truck and
September the 29th.
170?
870.
Oh, okay.
That's the same. That's the same amount. We paid one loan off, and we took another loan out last year. We maintain that debt for now. It's been about 15 years.
Next.
When you bought the $800,000, $756,000 fire truck, I remember sitting in the meeting and you said it was because one of your trucks is obsolete and needs to be replaced. Now today, it's good enough to go to Harrison Township and serve.
It's certified today, yes.
So I know what you're saying though, is let's keep it a few more years and send it to Harrison Township, even after the new one gets here. So why wasn't it good enough before you spent the $800,000 and now it's good enough?
It's not here, sir. I'm saying July 1, if we needed to send that, if that engine needed to go to Harrison Township July 1, it's certified and could do that.
The truck you bought, I'm talking about the Madison truck on the order, right?
Right, and it'll be here probably in
Right.
December.
When you went to your meetings and you said, we need a new truck because this other truck is wore out, and we're gonna replace it. But now you're saying that truck can serve years to come over in Harrison Township. I'm just wondering what changed your minds about that truck between when you ordered the new truck and now.
What I said is that truck would serve for 6 months in Harrison Township till the new one gets there, and then we would rotate probably this one to Harrison Township. July 1, we have a truck that's.
What are you gonna do with the broken down truck when the new one gets there?
It'll be sold for, the plan is to sell it.
Okay, then you want to sell it.
Well, the used market.
So that's it right to my second point about the park truck. It was good enough for another department, why isn't it still good enough for us? And that brings me back to my point about you guys